Hi. So the last talk now is just on using CIS to convey verification data from multiple tools. This is a tool we've been working on called the SureSign to use UCIS. Actually, we're a user of the UCIS information to pull the data from simulations and also from formal verification with one spin into a single database for a sign-off tool. So we're working with this example is with Cadence. This is some work we've done with Infineon, but it also works with Mentor as well. So we start with the UCIS file. We use a Cadence library. Up the top is a SureSign, and the SureSign works with a MySQL database to store all the data from the particular simulation. And what we do is we start reading the UCIS information from the UCIS call, UCIS open, with the pointer to the database name. That allows us to open up the UCIS file. Once it's open, we traverse the coverage database using the callback mechanism. So this, I think, this is a streaming example that Darren showed earlier. So this is what we use. We actually use this in real life to build our tool, and we use the callback mechanism then. So as the traverse the database, then we get a callback on important pieces of information back into a SureSign, which allows us to analyze that information. And the type of reasons we use for the callback is at the start, the initialization of the database, on particular pieces of design unit scope, on test data, scope information, coverage bin information, end scope information in database. So there's certain points during a traversal where it's deemed an interesting item, which will then use our callback to a SureSign, so a SureSign can analyze that particular piece of information. So that's a type of information that we will get back for UCIS. As I say, we're using Cadence, but it would also work with Mentor, and we've had this working with Mentor as well. So that's a type of information we can get from the UCIS library. Toggle, condition, cover group, package, function, fork join. We get a lot of information, but obviously not all of that is of interest to us. So what we do within the SureSign is then classify that data into what's interesting to us and what's not interesting to us. We use design unit, functional coverage, structural coverage, and assertions. So design units expanded a bit more there for you. So we only use instance and module coverage. So you can now see in blue the information we get from the UCIS interface on instance and design unit module. The color scheme may not be brilliant, but hopefully you can pick it out. On functional coverage, we get cover group, cross coverage information, coverage instance, cover points, coverage bin scope. We can also then get information about structural coverage and assertions as well. It allows us to classify the data that's coming out of UCIS, okay? And we assign a kind to that information, which then allows us to pull that information into our tool based on the type of data we've got, okay? And what we try to then do is capture the information we want, which is cover kind, coverage name, simulation path, file name, design type, line number, and the number of hits. That's the information we've then extracted from that particular simulation, okay? We can then call the Cadence library using UCIS again to get more information about those particular types of information. And you have to turn your head a little bit sideways to read that. But you can then, once we've got that information, we can then, through the UCIS calls, get more detailed information, more detailed analysis of that, okay? And what we're doing within the SureSign, what a SureSign does is try to take information across multiple simulations and from multiple tools. So what we're capturing then is information from multiple simulations and writing it into our MySQL database. So what we now can see is a history across the project. We've extracted the information that we want from each simulation, from each tool, and we put it into our MySQL database, which then gives it a structure which allows us to do searches and build project history and information based on that. Okay? So I'm going very fast, but the pizzas are here. So what we've got so far, as I say at the moment, is a SureSign works closely with UCIS, and it also works with UCDB. So we support Cadence and Mentor at the moment. But our plans now are to, we're working with OneSpin at the moment, so we can extract formal verification data into a SureSign as well. And we'll just start the project with Rolls-Royce, which allows us to start extracting software coverage as well. So for those who understand software, GCov is a structural code coverage tool for software. It's a GNU coverage tool. So GCov stands for GNU coverage tool, which allows us also now to start extracting information about software coverage into our tool as well. So now we can cover simulation from Mentor and Cadence. We can get formal verification information from OneSpin, and we can get software coverage information from GCov. And what we're doing is putting all that information into the same database, which then allows us to do analysis across different types. So a full product, if you like, and I had then talked about component level, SOC level, and system level, allows us to look across a whole system to get software coverage combined with simulation and formal coverage. Just a quick note on OneSpin coverage. I think as we heard in the OneSpin talk, we're actually getting information from XML, not directly from the UCIS database. So we read the information from the OneSpin XML. The negative in that is fairly big. It's a ASCII file rather than a binary file. But we actually find it easier because we can actually test it for ourselves as well, because we can actually read the XML. And we're capturing very similar type of information from OneSpin via the XML to build into our database. Okay, so what do we do with all this information? So the way SureSign works, it's mainly a requirements sign-off tool. So given the requirements for a particular product, and those requirements now can be in hardware or software requirements, we build those into features which define coverage goals or verification goals for those. That mapping of requirements to features to goals is held within the MySQL database in a sort of many-to-many mapping within the SQL database. And then using the information we capture from the various sources, so as I said, that's UCIS source, XML OneSpin source, or GCov from software. Okay, we can then populate the information. I should say features and goals rather than features and goalers, but that allows us to map requirements onto features onto goals. And as we run simulations, as we collect information from the various databases, the metrics then map to those goals, which then maps back into requirements. So basically, as you go through the project, you can see the requirements becoming more and more satisfied, and you actually you can there's a picture, there's a graph there. We give you the graph information as well. So in summary, a SureSign allows us to map requirements down to metrics. For using UCIS and now XML with OneSpin and GCov with Rolls-Royce, allows us to then map requirements both onto hardware verification goals, whether they're simulation or formal, or to software goals via structural coverage using GCov, and then allows us to put all that information into a MySQL database. We capture it on a regression by regression basis. We can see across the whole project, and we can track the progress to sign off of the requirements by the end of the project. Okay. Yes. Good point. Thank you very much. A good question from one of our users. Yes, the MySQL database effectively holds a test plan because the test plan is the set of requirements, how they map onto features and goals and metrics. And because that information is held within the MySQL database, effectively you've got your test plan held within the database. So it allows you to capture your test plan and then measure the progress against the test plan as you go through the project via those metrics. Any other questions that I might have missed now? Sorry. Yeah, another good question from the audience, which is reminding me all the features of a Shosran that I've forgotten. Yes, so that test plan is effectively live because as you change, for example, the coverage goals or anything like that, your test plan automatically updates. And if you change the if you change the coverage goal, you effectively can potentially lose a mapping within MySQL database. And then what you've then got is what we would call an orphan coverage point. The coverage point says I'm not attached to any requirement anymore, and the requirement says I've got a coverage hole because I used to have a coverage point and it's disappeared. So it's very much a live plan, and as you go through the project, as people are changing or adding in coverage goals, they map them to the requirements, or if the coverage goal changes, it may disappear, and you get a requirement hole. So that's a second very good question from Sari, who's certainly earning their money today. Anything else, Sari? Yeah. So that question was from Tim Joyce, who isn't a user, so it's a it's a standard question. And the question is, can we get information from emulation into that? I'm going to hand it over to Darren to see if there's is there anything in UCIS at the moment that will take, for example, a mentor emulation and put it into UCIS?
Well, we support emulation and mentor support writing into a UCDZ, so the data would be there. Assertions and functional coverage covered as well.
So at the moment, is it structural coverage from emulation? Is it?
No,
toggle. So at the moment, the answer straight from the horse's mouth from mentor is at the moment any mentor simulation will get toggle coverage into UCDB, which therefore is open via the UCIS interface to get into a tool like this. And Nigel tells me that functional coverage and assertions are on their way to. Yeah. Okay, so you heard it from mentor. Toggle coverage at the moment, and yeah, functional and assertions coverage on their way too. Any questions? Okay, we've got a couple of online questions which I'll read out. Can you perform exclusions on certain elements and recalculate the grades? We don't at the moment, but because that's available in UCS, we potentially could, but we don't at the moment. But I think, as Darren mentioned earlier, you can put those exclusions into the UCIS. Yeah. Yeah. So Darren's saying you can do that in UCS. You can put a flag on each of those objects. You can exclude them. Is that still based on line number though? Because there's always a problem with exclusions that are based on line number. So now you can put the exclusion on the object in the database. So yeah, it's possible within UCIS. It's not available at the moment within Shosran. Can you reapply your coverage goals on the new coming coverage, like a rerun, also known as, can you save your goals on the side and reapply them each time you perform an additional test? Yes, is the answer to that. So, yes, so it's what you're saying is that once you've got, I think the question is, once you've got a particular set of coverage, can you add additional tests and add the coverage from those additional tests onto the existing coverage? I think that's what the question is, and the answer to that is yes. You can just build up the coverage as you go through. So, so then you can actually, you can either do it on a consecutive regression, so you can actually then get a history across the project, or you can keep adding to the same regression to try and get as much coverage on that particular regression as you can.